Hello and welcome to the Preferred Contractors podcast, where we give you actionable steps to grow your contracting business. I'm your host, Jordan Harrison. Today, we're super excited to have Ms. Chelsea Craig, founder of Rhino Reviews, where they help grow your business in review generation and, of course, reputation management. So we're super excited to hear about that aspect that a lot of people forget about in their business and how it pertains to contractors. So Chelsea, welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Jordan. Really excited to be here today and have the opportunity to talk about this.
Awesome. So, all right. So we talked obviously before this and had some conversations. So I have to hear, and I want people to hear about your journey from sales at Frito-Lay's to starting Rhino Reviews.
Yeah, definitely a speckled path. I actually, to throw one more kind of curveball in there, I actually went to school for physical therapy before sales at Frito. So, all over the board, I'm one of the many people that has a college degree that I definitely don't do something in the field with. But I think that's what's so incredible, especially about all the opportunities right now. To make it short, I was at Frito, incredible company, incredible sales management training, just great trainings in general. Absolutely love the company, nothing bad to say there. But just really realized as I was kind of looking at, those career conversations that the 3, 5, 10-year plan of continuing at Frito really didn't it just didn't spark that energy and that drive in me. And then I decided to, do the socially acceptable thing when you want to quit your job, but don't know what you want to do next. And I applied to go get my MBA. And I actually resigned from my position at Frito to give myself a little bit of free time before starting school again. And during that time, yeah, I know the idea of going back to school. But during that time, my entire network is entrepreneurs. My dad is very successful small business owner. I wanted to throw the success in there. Shout out, Dad. Sam, my boyfriend, is the same thing, a small business owner. And weirdly enough, during this 1 month time period, they both had issues with their online reviews. They received fake reviews on their Google listing. And as I was doing nothing, I said, hey, let me look into this and help you out. I started looking at companies just to try and find them a solution, and basically ended up finding that while there were businesses out there providing solutions, I thought what they were charging, who they were marketing to, and then what they actually did for their work, there was a complete misalignment. And I thought, you know what, let me take this opportunity. I'm about to go to school for 2 years. What if I take 2 years and a quarter of that investment, try and, trust myself, start a business? And fortunately, 3 years later, here we are.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's crazy how that stuff happens. Like you're just like, you find, and it sparks that passion like you're talking about, and you wiggle around. And the way education is nowadays, my wife and I have like 5 degrees between us. So I get that, like, oh, here we go, another degree again. But that's amazing. And as successful as you've been so far, as I've seen, I think that's fantastic. And the journey part is what's important. So cool. Well, let's get into it, man. So I got to ask this because when it comes to reviews, people just forget about this part, or they're scared to ask, or they have no clue like how it really affects them. So like, what do you think is the number one mistake contractors are making, or really any small business owner, when it comes to reviews for their business?
Yeah, the number one mistake, and that's like a pick your top 5. There are quite a few mistakes that people make. If I were to choose it's the chicken and the egg basket. You've got to, I'll start with the first one, and I'm sure we'll get into some of the other mistakes that we'll make and we'll double back, but you've got to ask for reviews. Jay and you guys at Kyber Media, you do an incredible job of implementing an automation process, implementing outreach to make sure that you're asking for reviews. And there's 2 reasons for that. Number one, yeah, you want that Google review. That's that ultimate goal. There's a huge SEO effect. There's a huge kind of like peer pressure effect that people have when they're looking at your business. But beyond that, it's also a really large area of opportunity to understand if something's wrong with your business. So we focus so much on those 5 stars, but the 1 stars can be just as good. As you mentioned, though, so many people don't ask, and there's a variety of reasons there. Number one, they'll claim that they don't have the time, or, they're so busy, they forget, and all of that. But honestly, I think if you take it a level deeper, they're scared to ask. It's a vulnerable position to be put into. I mean, in a weird way, when I talk with clients a lot, I joke, I'm like, it's like asking someone on a date. And like, what if they say no? And that's an uncomfortable, it's an awkward feeling. But I try and remind them, like, you guys are in business. You wouldn't be in business if you didn't have happy customers. So, make that ask. And then, after you do it once, twice, 3 times, it becomes very comfortable. It becomes, just a matter of habit, and you'll see those reviews grow. But yeah, I would say the number one is people just don't make that initial ask.
And I think that same thing with sales. Like if you look at it on the front end, people are scared to just ask for the sale, right? Until
Exactly.
you hear, like I completely agree. It's like, hey, did we do good work? You know, you're confident you did, but at the end of the day, you're right. It's just it's probably that deep rooted of I don't want to be boastful, but yet you need to. That's how you're going to feed your family, right?
Yeah, that
And
analogy with the sales is so perfect because that's true. Just ask for the sale. That's
yeah,
such a
just ask.
misstep.
Absolutely. So why should people, you talk about negative reviews, so we'll get into that part because that's the one that everybody fears the most. They want that 5.0, but that doesn't really tell the whole story. So why should people not be afraid of getting negative reviews on the Google My Business?
Yeah, and this is a really great one that we spend a lot of time kind of educating people on. Google has actually done quite a few studies, and I don't have the exact statistics memorized, but they essentially looked at about 500,000 small businesses with each range of a review rating. And what they found was that between that 4.5 and 4.8 was actually a higher grossing revenue business when compared to similar industries with that perfect 5.0. The caveat being there was a floor on the amount of reviews. So obviously, if you only have 2 reviews and they're a 4 or 5 versus 2, I think it was like 20 or 30 reviews is where that metric came into play. And the reason for that is customers are smart nowadays. We review everything, whether you're buying something on Amazon or looking for a supplier on Google or going to Yelp for a restaurant. And we have been taught that like people on the internet are also ruthless.
Yeah.
So if you have 30 reviews with perfect 5 stars, especially in the construction space, that's a red flag for me because I'm going, there's no way, you haven't, not that you haven't messed up, but that someone's just not pissed off for some reason. It's the human nature. People like to complain. So getting, 1 or 2 negative reviews can actually add credibility to those positive 4 and 5 star ones. So they shouldn't be feared. Now, I will say, as long as they're properly managed. What do I mean by that? When you get that negative review, you need to respond to it because people are looking for those reviews. Yeah, I'm reading what that person says, but I'm more trying to put myself in those shoes. Like contractor, for example, if you left trash all at my house and I go and leave a review saying like, hey, they did a great job, but they left trash at the end and like my place is a mess. If I'm reading that review and I see the business responded saying, we're so sorry about that, we're contacting you to send someone out, I'm putting myself in that person's shoes and I just want to know how that business is going to handle it. So it's your opportunity to show how you would, resolve that situation and win future clients.
Yeah, and that's going to lead me to my next question. Like the best ways to respond to respond to negative reviews. And so, besides just of course, obviously the honesty part and doing that, because I've had bad contractors, people that replaced my hot water heater. They came in, they destroyed my side door. They walked in my house with muddy boots. They sat on my furniture, like all this stuff. And I was like, oh my God, like, and I wasn't home. My wife was. I'm like, oh my God, you guys like completely wrecked my house. And now I got to pay you money. Like, so I get it. No. And I left them a wonderful review. So besides just obviously the normal response of making sure that you're reaching out, is there like a structure, a way that they need to respond to those negative reviews that's going to make it beneficial to obviously the customer first, right? Because you need to make sure there, but the company as well.
Yeah. So professionally, I think there's definitely like dialed in details after that, but sum it up as professionally. I mean, there's that old quote, like, don't say something online that you wouldn't want as like a title on the front page of the New York Times article. Like while review, threads and back and forth, things are really funny to read on Reddit or Twitter. Like you don't want to be that company that's trending on those platforms because of your review responses. It's not the time to go back and forth. When it comes to negative reviews, you can push back with a little bit of passive aggressiveness. But at the end of the day, we typically err on, apologize. You don't have to apologize and admit that you've done something wrong because a lot of the times there's multiple sides of the story, but you need to apologize. Say, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry for any frustration you experienced. You're not admitting that you've done something, but you're still apologizing for the situation that you and the customer were involved in. We try and stress also keep it short. Don't go back and forth with like nitty gritty details. Again, Google or Facebook or Angie's List is not the time to sit and air all of that out. It doesn't make you look good. Your response, I'm going to take a step back. Remember the goal of the response. That response is to influence future customers. And if there's an opportunity to re-engage with that upset one, you breaking down all the little details of what happened is not going to paint you in a good light to future customers looking at that review. Keep it simple, keep it professional, and do it quickly. Everything is timestamped online. So when people are looking at these reviews, again, they're judging your business. They're looking to see if you pay attention. We really stress to all clients, respond within 24 hours. There's another Google study that has shown that if you respond within 24 hours, I think it's a 67% likelihood that that review is either updated or taken down. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people are using these negative reviews as just a way to get heard by the company. The amount of times we hear like, I've reached out to support and no one's getting back to me and I'm just frustrated. Okay, this is your opportunity. Get that response, but then actually follow through and reach back out.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And that's and it's funny you say that. That's people just want to be heard, and that's the only way they can be heard. And so the quick response, and I'm 100% positive there's softwares out there that will notify you when that review comes in, and you can respond like that second, you know.
They even do it on your phone now. Download the Google My Business app. You'll get it in milliseconds.
Yeah, and you can, so, or even on Facebook, like on anything, like it all could, there's a ton of things that you could do to help with that. And so you know, there's no excuse on businesses' parts, like they can make that happen. So that you know, so with the negative reviews and talking about, you talk about impacting future customers, so let's talk about how that affects SEO, you know, search engine optimization. So when it comes to Google specifically, because we're in the service-based businesses, let's be honest, like that's where people are going to find the reviews more than on a website or even social media. So how do the reviews really help drive local SEO?
Yeah. And I want to touch on one point you just mentioned about like Google. We say Google is king. It is the one platform that's universal, no matter what industry you're in. From a review standpoint, it's the least friction for your customers to leave their review. So you'll actually grow, you know, your opportunity of growing your reviews is more, and it's the most public facing. I mean, it's literally a verb. When someone gets a referral, no one's handing a business card anymore. They're Googling your name, and they might not be going there to read your reviews. They are probably just trying to find your phone number or your website. But Google shoves your reviews in their face. And what they'll also do is put your competitors' reviews in their face. But in regards to local SEO, especially again in the construction space and the services-based industries, the real kind of goal is being in that local 3-pack. And for anyone that's not familiar with what that means, that's when you Google something, you know, contractor near me, and typically the search results show a map. And then underneath that map, they'll show 3 listings. They choose 3 businesses. And yes, underneath that, it says like see more or something like that. But let's be honest, that's like going to the 3rd page of Google. No one does that. So you need to be in that local 3-pack. How do you get there? There's 5 really, you know, Sterling Sky, if anyone's looking for a great blog to subscribe to, or just like resource to have questions answered, Sterling Sky is phenomenal with this. They really test a lot of factors into your Google My Business listing. And they came out with that there's 5, you know, main factors that drive how your listing appears in relation to your competitors. What's interesting about it is you can only control and affect 2 of those 5 things. The first factor that plays into this is your business name. You're probably not renaming your business. But if someone's typing contractor near me and your business is named Joe's Contractor, you do have a leg up in that situation.
I will tell you something funny. I've seen somebody that named their business Dentist Near Me to get that edge. I've seen it.
So that's actually, I mean,
I've seen picture on it that says Dentist Near Me. It gets thrown around in the SEO, you know, space that I see online. So it's funny you say that. Sorry. I just thought it was hilarious to put that in there, but it's right. And people aren't going to change their name, but I think they got smart from the beginning. It was like Dentist Near Me. That's where
they got that. I mean, what's incredible to me to that is like, that really just screams the power that Google has, that someone literally named their business that for the SEO opportunities. I mean, that's mind blowing. Smart. But again, it just really stresses how important being in that local 3-pack is to your business's success. So unless you're like this dentist and you realize this beforehand, you're probably not updating your business name.
Right.
The second thing that you're probably not changing is the category. So when you build out your business listing, you have the primary category and secondary category. Those categories, contractor, roofer, anything like that. Because again, that's Google trying to match the search with what that business is. The third thing that controls into it is really the physical, like where you physically are located in relation to that person's search. Google's not going to provide you a roofer in Arkansas if you're searching from Philadelphia. You know, it really does try and match geographically. The third thing is those reviews and ratings. So we've now gotten to the first thing of this list that you can proactively control, affect, and drive. Google does not view all reviews the same way. It looks at recency. When was the review written? The quality, the person that's leaving the review. Is it their first review they've ever left, or are they a local guide who's left a lot of reviews? Is it only stars, or does it have content and words tied in? And then the words piece, those keywords that are used in that person's review, as well as your business reviews response. So that's a huge opportunity to help drive SEO. The words that are used in your response all factor into that, which is another reason why we stress, it's important to respond to those reviews. So those reviews and ratings factor in. And then another piece that I know this isn't review related, but it's just helping to drive your local listing is your actual Google My Business posts. And a lot of businesses don't take advantage of that. I know you guys at Kyber work really hard with getting your clients set up, posting on a weekly cadence. But that's another factor. Again, those keywords, what you're typing in, trying to match that with questions that people are searching is a huge play.
Yeah, and we talk about the posting in the Preferred Contractors group a lot, and like you should treat your Google My Business like your social media. Like that's gonna be an impact, photos,
exactly.
videos, and so we do talk about that. But you did say something interesting about I didn't know this, and I love to learn on this podcast. It's interesting to me. So when Google looks at the person that actually leaves a review, do they leave multiple reviews, and is it just a one-time thing? Like I didn't know that, and that's important to know, right? You don't want to, I guess you don't want to piss off the person that responds to, reviews everything, right? But that's interesting you say that. That's something I didn't know. I knew, the review side would make an impact, but I didn't realize that. So that's something new I learned. Yeah, I learn something new every day. So in responding to those, we'll talk about, obviously you respond to negative reviews, but here's something I know people miss. And why is it important to respond to every single review?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's a no-brainer, the negative ones to respond to. Whether they're responding to it professionally or not is another question, but everyone typically knows to respond to those negative. But what they miss is that opportunity to respond to the positive ones, because again, we focus so much on those negatives. Your positive reviews are huge because that's that person, they're your public cheerleader, they're that champion, they've taken their time out of their day to leave you a review. I try and use the analogy of like, imagine you're a store owner and a customer walks into your store and says like, wow, this is, I just got the greatest customer service of my life. And you just look at them. You don't respond. You don't say thank you. You don't say we're happy to hear that. You don't say we hope you come again. Like, it's the digital space is now a conversation, whether you want it to be or not, it is. And you need to treat it like that. So when you respond to those, when you get those 5-star reviews, respond to them, because that's the person also, they get so after they leave that review, when you respond to it, they'll actually get an email with your response notifying that you've responded to them. This person had a great experience with you. They were a live paying customer or client. They've taken the time to leave you a 5-star review. That is a huge referral opportunity for you. So you want to do everything you can to first of all, stay top of mind, but also like close that full circle with the customer so that they'll continue to refer you business. Beyond just the, that customer and the effect that has, as I mentioned in the, a couple questions ago, the keywords that you use in your responses are an opportunity to drive SEO. So if you are a roofer, thank you so much, Mark, for allowing us to help you on your home project, complete your home roofing project. We're happy you like the new roofing paint, throw some of those words in there. Don't keyword stuff, obviously, but it's just an opportunity to kind of load those in as well.
Cool. And so as far as, and you said one thing in there, and I'm trying to remember, I was like, keep that in my brain because I wanted to touch on that. I
talk a lot.
No, it was my fault. I was looking at show notes stuff, and there was something about it was just I guess it was more of the opportunity to create referral. And no, you said this was nowadays social media and online is a conversation, and that was the key. And I never thought of it that way. Like that's how we converse with people, not because of COVID. I mean, that's obviously play, but we're so involved on the social media side that's, I mean, you have conversations and comments, you have conversations and everything. And I never thought of it that way. And, I guess that mindset can be a mindset shift for those people. And we know in the contracting space, some people they're still living in the day and the age of, we do things by paper, word of mouth, that's it. They're still not want to embrace the digital age, but you're right. Like it's a conversation now. And I never thought of it that way. I think it's super smart. Yeah. I'm glad I had you on.
Well, yeah, one of the not review related, but one of the conversations I typically have with Sam is I'll say, oh, I talked to someone today. And I'll say, oh, I talked with Jordan. It was a great conversation. And I'll say, oh, you called Jordan. I'll say, no, we were texting or we were in Instagram DMing or something. And to me, I mean, he always stresses like, that's not a conversation. And I counter back, it is. That's how, 80% of our communication happens versus, face-to-face or phone calls.
Right. And I would beg to say most people I talk to, whether it's clients or people that, we're potential clients, like Messenger, Facebook Messenger, that's my new text.
Yeah.
Is that I don't have to give out my phone number, like hit me up on Messenger, I'll get it, it's crazy. So we're getting close to 30-minute hour or 30-minute mark, and I want to kind of wrap some things up with the last few things. So we did touch on, at the beginning, talk about asking for reviews. So for customers that may feel uncomfortable or whatever it may be, what are kind of some best practices for just approaching customers to even leave a review for your business?
Yeah. And it is, as we talked about at the beginning of this, it can be vulnerable. It can be uncomfortable, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get those 5 stars, that reward, and you'll keep it going. Some of the strategies that we put in place is kind of a multiple step approach. At the end of the day, people are very lazy. Customers, though I'm sure you've delivered a 5-star experience, and they might even say, if you would have verbally asked them, like, of course I'll leave you a review. To think or to expect that someone is going to leave, get in their car and pull out their phone, take the time to Google you, find your business, click write a review. It's unreasonable. People are lazy. We're in our cars, turning on our music and off to the next 5 things that we have to do. So the most important thing is to make it as easy as possible for your customers. And there's a couple ways you can do that. At Kyber, I know you all do a wonderful job with setting up email campaigns. Automate it. Include that link or that ask in your invoice. Include that link in your ask in some type of like automated follow-up, where maybe if you use Salesforce, you have a trigger that says, when this is closed, send them this email. Find some way to automate that process, because you are busy and you're going to forget. And the advantage with that is you can include that direct link right to your Google listing or your Angie's list. So it's easy for that customer. Another thing that we've seen a lot of in the contractor space, because they're typically face-to-face with the clients, when you finish that business and you have that invoice to leave them, or, there's typically some type of paper physically to leave them. QR codes are back. COVID has brought QR codes back. You can go online for free and find your QR code for your Google My Business reviews, print it out, leave that with those customers, make it easy for them in that space. Another thing in the contractor space, a lot of the times you are texting with your clients. So you have had permission. You also have their cell phone number. It's not out of the box to text them. Send them a simple text message a week later. Hey, thanks again for allowing us to work with you and help you with this project. It would truly mean the world if you could leave us a review. We appreciate your feedback. Send them the link to your listing. Whatever works for you, stick with. There's a lot of ideas out there. There's a lot, Google it. There's some great ideas out there, but I think the most successful processes I've seen are automated in some way.
So with that being automated, like what are ways, and I'm the content guy, so I'm always trying to, create the human connection, build the relationships, the video and all that. So that's always my thought process. What are ways you think, that they could really kind of humanize that instead of make it seem like, hey, we did a great job for you, I need you to do this for me. Not transactional, but very, very, I don't know, just a human element to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that is, you don't want to be robotic. You're again asking someone to do a favor for you. Personalized the automation. It sounds silly, but put that person's name there. Almost, I think every email campaign has the opportunity to do that. So make sure you include that person's name. Another thing is, if you talk about the process beforehand to your customers, especially again in the contractor space, you have the advantage. A lot of the times you're actually physically there with them. Ask them in person. Let them know that it would help you. Let them know that it means something to you. Let them know that they'll be getting a follow-up. It doesn't surprise them. It doesn't catch them out of the blue. They're expecting it. And you've talked with them on that human level. And then, we do try and if you are doing an automated email campaign, whether it's through a pre-generated software or whether it's you setting up your own system, make sure that the script matches you. Practice reading the email out loud and is that something you would say to the customer? If it's the super formal, or just very vague, it's going to throw off the branding. Basically write your email as if you were asking them in person, because you want to make sure it still sounds like you. And then that'll maintain that like human real element with it.
Yeah, and I love that. And once again, these are things that people may not have time to think about as they're, building out their business. And obviously you don't have to do this at one time, right? But like there's, business is about creating relationships, and I believe that. And if you're impersonable at some point in time, or you don't, like you said, you're not on your own brand, or it's not something that come out of your mouth, sometimes it creates that disconnect, and it may rub somebody the wrong way. Like, hey, why are you, like, and so I think that's something that's important. That's why, I wanted to ask that question, because, with the so much conversation being online and not the formal in-person connection, like you've got to continue to create the human element with the technology we have. So I think it's great. So what, we'll wrap up here. What do you see? I didn't say I would ask this question ahead of time, so I'm going to throw it at you. So where do you see kind of the review generation, in, I would call it an industry in a form? Where do you see reviews kind of going in the future? And then like, how is Rhino staying on top of that with changes coming in with Google?
Yeah, that's a fascinating question. Because even in the 3 years that we've been in business, it's changed so much. The biggest shift that we see constantly is the platforms that truly matter. I mean, for example, Yelp a couple of years ago used to really be the end all be all. If you weren't on Yelp, if you didn't have reviews on Yelp, your business was going to be in trouble. And that's really not relevant anymore. Both customers and businesses are just really, I mean, to be honest, just frustrated with some of the rules and the policies and algorithm and all of that piece of Yelp. Whereas Google has really seen that there's a large opportunity and kind of doubled down and rewarded businesses for their positive reviews. Facebook itself has changed from reviews to recommendations. So I guess just, the platforms that really matter, as well as the kind of desire from the customers as well as the business for a more verified process. We've seen a lot of companies making changes, Amazon even, to try and really counteract these fake reviews that are coming through, show ways to show like, hey, these are real, these are credible. So I think there's definitely some more changes to come from that. The importance of them continues to just really increase. COVID, it was already important, and COVID only accelerated the review and reputation importance. So I'm intrigued to see kind of where that continues to go. And then not so much from the customer focus, what we've really seen recently in the past year, a huge shift is towards the actual business. I'll say the business reputation as a whole. And what I mean by that is really these also employee review-based platforms, Glassdoor, Indeed, those have become huge. And we've actually had customers lose sales because they had clients mention that they didn't like the culture of that business because they had a 1 or 2 star rating on Glassdoor. So I think, there's already a million things on these businesses' plates to sit and monitor, but your overall reputation versus just the focus on, 1 or 2 platforms for reviews is going to be huge.
Well, and that's for somebody who may be growing their business, that may be something that they can put on the forefront. Like, all right, I've got to make sure, that culture is important, like how I'm taking care of my employees, which should be, but some people don't think that way. I can't tell how many times I've been in a Facebook group or online, I hear, a contractor be like, hey, I need a helper. Okay, well, nobody wants to be labeled a helper. Like that's like asking my 10-year-old to come help me fix the timing belt on my truck. You want somebody to come work with the company and grow an experience. And I think if people who are growing their business and starting to hire, like you mentioning that, and I didn't even think about that. That's so important in bringing that element into it. And I'm glad you mentioned it, because that's another golden nugget, another bomb drop there to people to think about that as they grow, or if they're growing now, that to make sure they factor that stuff in. So I think that's fantastic. So Chelsea, I can't thank you enough for taking time to come chat with us today and really bringing, there are so many nuggets in there in the review game that people don't think about or don't make important. They're just, a lot of times people get focused on the next sale and where's the revenue coming in. And so I think it's important that they see this. So I appreciate your time there. So if somebody, any business, especially in the contracting space, that's our audience, if they want to work with Chelsea, they run our reviews, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah. So our most active social platform is LinkedIn. We're posting videos and kind of like tips, tricks, and advice there a couple times a week. So if you want to follow us on LinkedIn, that's actually me personally, as well as our company page. And I'll get you the link for that. And then if you have any questions or just, want to find out more, feel free to email me directly. It's Chelsea, CHELSEA at rhino-reviews.com.
Awesome. And your content game on LinkedIn is really good. Like the tips are really good too. Like I follow a lot and I look for those videos to see like, okay, what's something that I could share to everybody else. So no, I appreciate it again, Chelsea. Thank you again. I want to thank you guys for listening to Preferred Contractors podcast. If you haven't jumped in the Preferred Contractors group, you want to search for Preferred Contractors in Facebook. It should be like the first group that pops up. Hop in there, answer the questions, agree to the rules, come in, learn everything you need to know about marketing, business development, business strategies, all that stuff to help grow your contracting business. Chelsea, thank you again. And thank you guys for listening.